Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Eurogamer Newscast. This week, talking about Pokémon Presents. Presents? Yesterday's live stream, where we found out that the next major Pokémon game was going to launch not this year, but in 2025. Hey, that sounds quite similar to what we were talking about last week with Switch 2. Joining us to talk about all of that is Eurogamer's news team. The very shocked Ed Nightingale.
Hello.
The very surprised Victoria Phillips Kennedy.
Hello.
The stunned Livnan.
Hello.
I like that we're just all emojis now.
And I'm Tom Phillips. So
Dumbfounded Tom
The
Phillips.
dumbfounded Tom Phillips.
Give us space.
Alex, the producer, if you're watching, that's the thumbnail right there. Yeah, who'd have thought, eh? So no Switch Pokemon game this year. I think we're all expecting the next Switch Pokemon game to be announced, and there was a fair shout that it might be a game that, had Switch 2 not been delayed, might have been cross-gen. What we got was, I would say, slightly confusing announcement for Pokémon Legends ZA. What an awful name for a video game, but why is it called that? Do we know?
Like Jay-Z, is it going to be called ZA? No.
Maybe.
Well, isn't it a new Legends game based on X and Y?
Yes. So this is X, Y, and Z or Z.
Kind of makes
And then
sense.
to go back to the beginning of the alphabet.
Also, there's the AZ Pokemon, so people think that it's a link to that.
There's a character called AZ, isn't there?
Unknown.
What's
Unknown
was
as
it-
well.
Are you talking about unknown?
I'm just referring to what I saw on the internet, which may or may not be true.
I'm just going to take a sip of my tea while you guys discuss this.
There's a character called ZA in the no, sorry, AZ. I'm getting confused now. In X and Y, and also, as Liv said, there is a Pokemon called Unknown, which has 28 different forms for all the letters of the alphabet, plus an exclamation mark and a question mark. There's also a Pokemon called Zygarde, which is in that gen, I believe. People are saying it could mean it's the Z, like XYZ, and then a callback to Arceus. Maybe Arceus will pop up again here. And that's the A. It's still a weird name.
Doesn't really roll off the tongue.
No.
I'm just calling it pizza.
Yeah,
Because
I've seen that pizza
Pokemon.
thing.
And then Zara.
Pizza.
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 To be fair, I am happy that we're getting another Legends game, though, because Arceus was quite fun, despite not running very well. It was a fun game. It was a nice twist on Pokemon with the sort of more action. I say action just in that it's sort of in the world, open world kind of vibe. I really enjoyed that game, even though it was still quite flawed visually. So I'm glad that they are continuing that. But I think what's interesting is the setting for this. It seems like it's going into the future when Arceus was going into the past. And then Nintendo have said that it's all based in one city, which is Lumiose City.
Hmm.
So there's chat about, is this, Pokemon GTA, which might be a bit far, but if it's all set in one city, that's quite a change.
Well, the most recent Pokemon, Scarlet and Violet, had legendary Pokemon that you could ride around as motorbikes. So maybe it's
True.
not too far out of the...
But can you steal someone else's Pokemon and ride it?
Yeah. Pokemon helicopters.
Team Rocket wanted system.
Yeah. Yeah, 5 Pokeballs and then you're caught.
I love the idea that it's all set in one city. I think that's really... It's absolutely something they've not done before. Yeah. And I like that Legends has sort of arisen as this sub-brand where it can be a bit different, because I think to its detriment, Pokemon is extremely formulaic, and actually people sort of want that, but then it really gets stuck in the, you're a young kid traveling around a region doing 8 gyms and then the Elite Four. How much can you do with that? Well, we're 9 generations in, and I think they've done that formula quite a lot. So I'm really curious to see what they do with a city-based thing. Maybe it's going to be like Assassin's Creed, and there are like different districts, and you have to go around and beat the gym leader in each district and basically take over the map, and then you can.
I mean, that fits with the sort of world design that they've given, which is that big circle with different segments that looks a little bit like Midgar from Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
So that would certainly fit if there's, a gym in each segment.
Yeah.
It's also giving me potentially Detective Pikachu vibes, in the sense of that film is like a city with Pokemon living in it that you can go around. And I can imagine that kind of vibe in this, where it's giving you that sense of a city with Pokemon, people and Pokemon living together, which I don't think we've necessarily seen in a game.
They'd
Massively.
better have whatchamacallit firefighters, Squirtle firefighters, if that is the case. That is a need.
Yes.
So, very good. You mentioned that this is obviously like another Legends game, and you mentioned that Arceus was in the past. I should say I've not played Arceus apart from seeing the glitches I found very amusing. Does this mean that ZA is in the same, like, is it like the same world? So is this city in ZA a place that you might have visited in the past in Arceus?
No, I mean it's all in the same world, but every game is set in a different region,
Okay.
like a different country. Kalos, which is the region that X and Y were set in, and which Lumio City is a city in, is based on real world France. Scarlet and Violet, that came out quite recently on Switch, were based on Spain and Portugal. Arceus was based. It was a historical version of the Sinnoh region, which is one of the regions of Japan. All of the early Pokemon games were based on regions of Japan, and then they started going off and doing different things, like they did Sun and Moon, which was Alola, which is obviously real world Hawaii. So they all exist as part of the same.
Sword and Shield was the UK.
Ah.
Yeah. Probably the most cohesive version of the world is the anime, and the more recent seasons have sort of hopped all the way around it as Ash Ketchum completed his journey to become a Pokemon master. But anyway, I'm quite looking forward to this. It's a shame though that it's not coming out this year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. And they had the comment at the end that it's launching. I can't remember exactly the phrasing, but
Simultaneously.
simultaneously, yeah. So it's like, oh, Nintendo, Game Freak, what are we doing here?
For Nintendo Switch systems, yeah. It's really odd to see them say simultaneously. Like, why do you need to say that? All recent Pokemon games, all recent games release simultaneously around the world. There's no reason that they need to say, oh, this is going to launch in one region before another, unless maybe hardware doesn't launch at the same time everywhere.
We obviously mentioned last week that we thought that the Switch 2 has possibly been delayed because it's got no big launch games this year. Do you think that this was meant to be a launch game this year, but they've knocked it back for some reason, and that's why they're not launching Switch 2? Was this the game, you think?
Here's what I think. Every year has seen a new Pokemon game or major expansion launch for as long as I can remember. And there will not be one in 2024. And I cannot tell you the last time that happened. And that to me is very odd. If it launches in March, it's still in the financial year. And Arceus launched in March as well. But they still had a November game. They had the Chibi Diamond and Pearl remix. And a lot of people were expecting one of those announced yesterday for Black and White, and it didn't happen. So that's really interesting as well. If this is the only game they've got for the next 12 months, it's very surprising that it's next year. And of course, people are saying, well, maybe it wasn't originally planned for next year. Maybe it was always going to be a cross-gen game, and they're not launching the Switch version this year because they're waiting to launch it simultaneously on Switch and Switch 2. when Switch 2 launches in 2025.
If it has been pushed back, it might be a good thing in the sense of the last couple of Pokemon games have not been visually and performance-wise good. So if they're pushing this back, then if that means we actually get a better game at the end of it, I'm happy with that. Like, yeah, it's strange that this is the first year without one, but it does feel like potentially an odd year for Nintendo in general in terms of
Yeah.
the hardware changes and what we can expect. So I'm sort of not surprised, but I don't mind if it means that we get a better game at the end of it.
Also, if this was intended to be a launch title, they cannot launch with a game that is glitchy and buggy. They need to make their launch title for Switch 2 good quality.
Yeah, Switch 2 will be judged by the games available at launch, and if this is a launch game, it can't be another Scarlet and Violet or Arceus, where people's patience, you could tell, was really starting to wear thin. Pokemon, I think, had been given an easy ride for a long time with glitches, and you could see the frustration from fans and also from journalists and critics. Like it was starting to bring down review scores. I think Eurogamer has mentioned the technical issues in big Pokemon games going back a little while. I think that you really saw that become quite a loud conversation from pretty much everyone who reviewed Scarlet and Violet and Arceus. And I think afterwards, we reported that Pokemon Nintendo have acknowledged those complaints, and if there is a game that they need to get right, it would be a new console launch title Pokemon game. Yeah.
I mean, we're speculating that this is going to be a launch title, but I don't think a console has ever launched with a Pokemon game before. In which case, is that a good move in itself?
It's a good point. It's a good point. Like the Pokemon Company normally waits at least until the following Q4 when the Switch, when the console, whatever it is that's launched, has built up a bit of a user base, because Pokemon games have the potential to sell huge amounts if you're just launching it alongside a console. The number of people who have that new console is obviously a lot smaller because it's only just come out. It is a really interesting one. But then if you're talking about Switch 2 launching in March and it not being there, then really the only other Pokemon launch window is then back around at November 2025. And that is a long time without a Pokemon game and without the Pokemon money tap being tapped for sales. So, and also I question, like, why announce it now if it is going to be the back half of 25? 18 months away.
Something for Pokemon Day.
But then why not just fart out a black and white remake for this year? I think it all points to this having been set for this year, but being delayed alongside Switch 2, or maybe Switch 2 being delayed because this was one of the key launch games that they couldn't guarantee was going to be ready in time and up to scratch for November this year. So.
I mean, that means if we do have Switch 2 launching with potentially a new Mario game, obviously Metroid Prime 4, and then a Pokemon game, like that's a pretty strong lineup for a new console.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. That will get people upgrading. Metroid is for the core audience. Pokemon is for the mass market, younger audience. Throw a Mario in there as well, or a Mario Kart.
For everyone.
For everyone. Love that game.
Anyway, they also announced a very cool game coming this year, which is Pokemon trading card game Pocket.
That's actually what I'm most excited about, all that.
Genuinely.
I don't like Pokemon. I do not like Pokemon, but I'm not as big into it as you guys. I thought that looked really cool.
It does. Like the fact you can sort of have these immersive cards that you go into. It's obviously playing on the fact this is digital. It's going to save on a lot of paper. And I can imagine that doing really well and bringing in plenty of money in terms of, I presume, buying card packs. You get 2 free a day, but the game is free to start. So I'm presuming that you can download the app and then you just pay for more cards on top of that.
Yeah.
And maybe different packs you buy are guaranteed to have better cards in them.
Yeah.
I don't know how this is going to impact the TCG as it is at the moment, with people buying cards and playing them at events. I don't know if this is intended to maybe be the future and take over from that. But if this is free to start, I will happily download an app, have a few free cards, and have a little collection of them. And I can imagine a lot of people jumping into that in the way that people did with Pokemon Go when that first started.
Yeah, I think it's got that same definite energy, like you said. Like I can imagine that kind of game being something I download and I have a few fun games with. If I want to spend money later down the line, I could. But yeah, I like to look at that one. It is interesting what you say, though. I wonder if this is the future. Like, do you think that Pokemon is wanting to move away from its cards, given that they are so synonymous with Pokemon, as in like physical cards?
No, I think this is another way of them monetizing cards, just without even having to pay for the cardboard that the cards are based on. And not everybody wants to go down the shop and buy Pokemon cards. It's much easier to just, when you're tired / drunk and you make poor purchasing decisions related to video games.
Speak for yourself, Tom.
So I've never done that.
Look, the Shredder skin that I bought the other night in Fortnite is amazing, okay, and was absolutely worth 1,500 V-Bucks. Having that just put in the palm of your hand is something that you can just, 69p on another pack of digital Pokemon cards, and it will be 69p, and people will be like, oh, that's a really good deal because the actual packs of Pokemon cards cost £5. And then they go on to spend like 10 times as many pounds because it's just there in the palm of their hand. Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't done this already. I thought they had done this already, so I was a bit surprised to see it pop up again, but cool.
I think the cards are so well established that you're not going to sort of remove that straight away. It's like people listening to digital music rather than physical medium and games. Like, that's well established. People, I think, especially with the cards, like to hold the cards, want to play the game holding the cards.
Watch
there's lots of people
YouTubers
who
opening
do
cards.
Yeah, exactly. ASMR of tapping cards.
If you're Logan Paul wearing it to a wrestling event.
Yeah, there are people who paint on the cards as well,
that'd
and
be
make art out of
fun.
them. So
Cool.
there's a whole thing with paper cards. They're not going to suddenly get rid of them, but yeah, this is a very simple and easy way for them to just monetize people buying more of them.
I am now picturing Tom slightly tipsy, though, trying to buy cards at his local Pokemon shop. I assume you have a Pokemon shop where you live. Wandering down. Give me 5
It's called a
Pikachus.
news agent, Victoria. But yeah.
Pokemon
I
shop.
haven't bought Pokemon cards in 20 years at least, since I was about 14, 15. But I still like Pokemon, and I spend money on Pokemon Go instead. So the Pokemon company has my money.
Most Pokemon cards we got were from McDonald's.
Yes,
That your guys
in the Happy Meal. My nephew really loves those. I took him to McDonald's specifically to get those cards.
For you to get the cards, not him.
Yeah.
There were
Move
2
over,
Happy
nephew.
Meals ordered that day.
So technically, I have bought Pokemon cards recently, but they sit in his bedroom at his house
Yeah.
for him.
You sure?
Yeah.
It's an
You're
excuse
definitely
for
not
you
just
to go
holding
around and
on to them
visit.
for now.
Oh, he doesn't have my Pokemon card collection from back in the day. That's like back at where I grew up, in a folder, so that one day I can sell it and hopefully get, I don't know, a few £100 or so.
I still have all my TY Beanie Babies from, I don't know, I suppose
wow.
like similar time, similar era. That one day is going to make me millions.
Have they kept their value like Pokemon cards?
I'll let you know.
Quick, eBay it.
Yeah.
Check for mold and
Oh,
moth holes.
if those moths have got hold of my Beanie Babies, exterminates to be called in.
Liv, you did the sort of roundup of the full presents thing. Was there anything else in this that was worthwhile?
I mean, Pokemon Go, there was that collaboration event stuff, and I guess if you're an avid Pokemon Go player like Tom, it's of interest to you. But other than that, it was a bit meh. Like it, I feel like they needed Legends, they needed ZA, because otherwise it would have been quite lacking. And we sort of knew that already, given that it was a very short stream.
Yeah,
We knew beforehand
12.
it was going to be 13 minutes, which is not a lot of time, and you're kind of sat there wondering, well, what's this going to include if it's so short?
Yeah,
Tom,
I
are
think
you
they
excited
needed
about the
ZA.
Pokemon Go stuff?
I was surprised they didn't. There's a new season coming up, launching at the start of March. I was surprised they didn't talk about that then. Instead, they just, as Liv said, used it to confirm a collaboration with the new anime series, so you can have Captain Pikachu in the game, which is fine.
I was quite surprised we didn't hear any more about Pokemon Concierge. Just because they did share a little tweet earlier in the year teasing more to come. So that would have been quite a good point to say something.
I guess that series takes a long time to make.
Yeah.
So there's
True.
probably nothing to say just yet.
Yeah.
There was a lot in going back to ZA in the trailer. I wanted to talk about two specific things. One is, what did you think of the teaser itself? Like, what did we see? It wasn't gameplay, was it?
I think both Liv and I were watching and were like, it looks like Tron.
Yeah, I was like, this is just Tron.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I mean, they were
Do
very
you,
potentially wise not to show gameplay.
why do you think
Given
that
what,
is?
well, just given what we were sort of speculating before, like if this game is not ready to be shown, but they needed to show it in some capacity for Pokemon Day, avoiding showing gameplay was. I mean, I have no idea the status in. I've not seen it at all, apart from yesterday's trailer. But it was maybe wise that they have kept it quite under wraps, even whilst teasing it.
Yeah, there were no 10 frames per second windmills in this as there were in Scarlet and Violet. But I think it's just another indicator that this is going to come to Switch 2. And when they first show it, they want to show it running on Switch 2 hardware rather than Switch hardware.
Yeah.
So that it looks as good as possible. And of course, they can't show it running on Switch 2 hardware right now, as of 28th of February, because as of 28th of February, Switch 2 does not exist, according to Nintendo.
Yeah.
Also, you mentioned earlier that this was the region that's based on France.
Hmm.
And now I'm watching it again. I'm like, oh, you can see people sat in a cafe and the sort of bridge over the river and what looks a bit like
There's
the
a fake Eiffel Tower. Yeah.
Yeah, because I haven't played the original X and Y, so now I'm looking at it again. You've said that, I'm like, oh, this looks incredibly French. Which to have as like a big city, I think is really cool.
Yeah. Open world Paris. I mean, last time that happened, it was Ubisoft, Assassin's Creed Unity, and that went great. So
You're gonna go back to Ubisoft or to Assassin's Creed. Are there any like French cliche style Pokemon already out there? Would they introduce? I assume they'd have to introduce new Pokemon for this game.
X and Y had a few stereotypical French Pokemon, such as a poodle Pokemon that you could then customize with different trims.
Oh, how very chic.
That was one of them, and that is in the trailer as well. But yeah, hopefully there will be new Pokemon species. Legends introduced some new ones. I'm sure ZA will do too. That brings me on to the other thing I wanted to talk about, which is Mega Evolution. Yeah, Mega Evolution is my.
Woo!
It's the best gimmick, and fans love it. It's now a big thing in Pokemon Go. It's basically used as like a stat boost and as a whole system for leveling up your Mega Evolved Pokemon. I love that it's back. I think that people at the time were a bit split on it. They said it was a bit Digimon, but I think over the years it sort of stood the test of time, and it's just such a great way to revisit old favorites.
So is that not in Arceus or the ones from last year, Scarlet and Violet?
No, Mega Evolution was a thing that was in X and Y, and then
Was that the first one that had a sort of gimmick like that?
yeah,
Yeah, because then Sword and Shield had Gigantamax, and
Oh, and
then
Terrestrialize.
Terrestrializing was
That-
Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because it feels now that every generation now has to have its own spin on some sort of gimmick.
It has to have its own spin on Mega Evolution, yeah. And I've just for ages just thought, just go back and do more Mega Evolutions. But because they've already done a Mega Evolved Charizard, in fact, there's two of them, a Mega Evolved Mewtwo. If they want to do another Mewtwo, they have to do something that's not Mega Evolution, probably. But it's back in this game. It looks like the logo is in the teaser, right? And I'm looking forward to more Pokemon getting Mega Evolutions. I have a whole list.
Are they actually called
Are they going to
Mega
trample
Revolution?
the city?
Oh, like Godzilla.
What did you say, Ed? Sorry.
Are they going to trample the city?
They're not that big. They're not like Godzilla big. Although maybe that was more Gigantamax. Maybe they will be in this one. Yeah.
That's how it all ends. The big
Maybe.
finale. What do you want then from a sort of city-based Pokemon? Like, what would you like to see? Because we've obviously had Fido, etc., which I don't think anything can top. Oh my god, Lechonk! Remember him? What do you want now as a city-based Pokemon?
Really angry seagulls.
I'm picturing like a kind of Psyduck variant now.
There is
Well,
already
they've
a
got
seagull
Wingull.
Pokemon. Yeah. Like a dark type seagull evolution which comes in and steals your chips. Or it's France, so like steals
My
your baguette.
croissant!
I was going to say, I want a croissant.
A croissant Pokemon.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is
that
quite-
could be like what's it called? Lunatone? It could be like
Yeah.
some weird variant of that.
Pastry variant. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have they
My
done
gosh.
a cheese Pokemon?
Enjoy, Monsieur
Fromage.
Fromage.
Poke Bremon.
Formaggio. That could be a good name for a Pokemon, right?
Hmm? Yeah.
Fromagezard.
Oh my god, they need a French variant of Mr. Mime.
Oh yes, yes.
With
Yes!
garlic.
Little Betty.
It's got a little
Oh my
twirly
gosh,
moustache.
Yes! That would be so good.
Should we apologise to anyone who's French that's watching / listening?
Yeah,
to
sorry.
It's France's turn. England had what did we have in our games?
Football.
The gyms were football stadiums, yeah.
Such disdain. Ugh.
There'll be an Eiffel Tower Pokemon or something, I don't know.
I was annoyed because I picked Score Bunny and then it turned into a jock. And I'm like, that's not what I wanted from the cute bunny.
Oh. It's fine.
Yeah.
Very soon you're going to evolve into a panini baguette. A millefeuille.
What else is there? French stuff. Bicycle Pokemon?
Oh, they had that weird like car engine Pokemon, didn't they, recently? So bicycle
Notre
could make
Dame
sense.
Pokemon? Fire type?
Quasimodo.
Cosmodo.
Or maybe the storyline is that all the Pokemon go on strike.
Oh.
Wow, yes. Oh my gosh, that could totally be part of the story because it's meant to be that urban redevelopment plan, right? It's meant to
Yeah.
be Pokemon and humans living and working in harmony.
Exactly. And they're like, do you know what? I'm pissed
This is
off with being
slave
stuck in a
labour.
ball all the time. I'm done. I'm leaving the city. I'm out. And then humans have to live on their own.
Oh.
The Pokemon unionize.
Oh, and then there's just a little French mime to sort of wave us all goodbye.
Cool. Well, we've cracked it. I think Game Freak, if you're listening, you've still got a year to go, so feel free to use none of those ideas.
Or they're going to be watching this and be like, they've cracked it. We need to completely rewrite what we've started.
Damn.
How did they know?
Yeah. Exciting times. Was there anything else from yesterday that any of you wanted to chat about?
Not particularly. I think it's just, as we said, it's weird that there's no Pokemon game this year. But I think I feel slightly fatigued by Pokemon just because there are so many games every year, and I think a remake would have been nice because I have missed out on a big chunk of them. Like I played Blue, and then I skipped everyone until Sword and Shield. So having a chance to go back and play some of those, I'd actually really appreciate that. Equally, just shove the Game Boy games on Nintendo Switch Online.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do that. There's always the risk that doing that, it's like, I don't know, it cannibalizes Switch Pokemon game sales. But if you haven't got a Pokemon game out on Switch, then why not? All right. Well, I'm excited for ZA, even though it's a long way away, and I'm excited to play it on Switch 2, and hopefully it will run better than the last few games. Cool.
I feel like we've really drained the editor-in-chief, guys.
Not at all. Not at all. I really thought that we were going to get more from Pokemon Presents, but there we go. Maybe there were other Switch 2 projects to announce, and they've decided not to. We shall see. Right. Join us again next week for whatever is in the news then. Pokemon with baguettes and onions or something else. Until then, Ed, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me at ed_knights.
Victoria?
You can find me at Little Chop Shop Gal.
And Liv?
I am at Just Cast Holy.
And I am at Tom Phillips CG. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.
See you then.
Bye bye.